Over the years, weight cutting is a concept that has been massively misunderstood. There's been a lot of strategies that have created horrible stories that people then hear and decide that weight cutting is not something that should ever be inside of wrestling or any other combat sport. However, weight cutting done correctly and used with the accurate knowledge and strategies is something that is highly beneficial and actually healthy for individuals when done correctly. So, how do we do this? Let's get into it. When we talk about weight cutting, we are not talking about sitting in saunas for an extended amount of hours. We're not talking about starving yourself, and we're not talking about cutting out all water out of your life either and completely dehydrating and deplenishing all of your resources. What we're talking about is a slow, timed progression of weight descent. When we start talking about the calculations needed to weight descend in a correct time frame, we need to understand the math. So, what are we trying to accomplish? What we're trying to accomplish is transitioning fat weight into water weight. And if you've listened to any of my previous videos, this is important because it takes a lot less energy to burn the same amount of water weight as it does fat weight. Why does this happen? First off, we need to understand that there are 3,500 calories inside of every 1 pound of fat. That means if I'm going to weight descend in a healthy way, that means I need to be in a 500 calorie deficit, and over a 7-day time frame, that means I can lose 1 pound of fat per week. So let's say I'm a wrestler who's sitting around 175. I want to drop down to 157, so that means I need to drop 18 pounds of fat weight. If I'm losing 1 pound of fat per week, that means I need 18 weeks to be able to decrease all of that fat weight and transition it all into water weight. Now, 18 weeks. This is a very long time. That takes about 4 months and 2 weeks to be able to accomplish. 4 months and 2 weeks. This isn't something that's going to be able to be done during season. It's going to have to be done before season even starts. Most college seasons, your in-season phase, is about 6 months long. Most high school seasons are only 3 months long. So if I'm trying to transition 18 pounds of fat weight into water weight, I'm going to need that preseason time to be able to do it. So if I want to be able to do that within the first month of my in-season training, that means I need to back up my schedule 3 months before I ever even start my in-season practices. So let's say my in-season practices start in November, right? So that means I need to back it all the way up into August. I need to start eating healthy, working out consistently, and decreasing my caloric intake or increasing my caloric expenditure so that I have a differential of 500 calories per day to be able to lose 3,500 calories per week. That will help transition that fat weight into water weight and decrease your weight more effectively, which will then preserve the energy stores that you have in your muscles and help you perform better. Where this gets messed up is we start to yo-yo back and forth over the weekends. We drop weight down to 157, and instead of replenishing it healthily, we refuel it with a bunch of bad food because we're feeling, starved of all the good foods, the chocolates and the ice cream and whatever else you want to eat. And so we actually, instead of refueling our body back into water weight, we refuel it back up into fat weight. When we do this, our body goes into a starvation mode. When we go into a starvation mode, it does not want to then lose that fat weight. It thinks it needs to keep on that fat weight, so it's going to grab onto it and hold on and not let it go. This will make it harder to lose weight as the season goes, and if you've ever experienced this, you can actually make your weight cutting a lot harder over the course of your season if you yo-yo every single weekend. So let's say, we're going back to this example, I start at 175 and I drop my weight down to 157. Most likely what's going to happen is my body isn't going to be carrying 18 pounds of water weight. That 175-pound weight that I started at is probably going to end up dropping down to a 167, a 165, because naturally my body wants to push out excess water. So my normal weight, which was 175 before with 18 pounds of fat weight, is now a 165, a 167 with around 10 pounds of water weight. So as we go through a season and we start to cut weight progressively and in a phase that is actually healthy for our body, our performance starts to increase because now it's become more efficient at pushing water and nutrients into our muscles, which helps us compete better, drop weight better, practice better, train better, and we just perform better overall. and we keep our mental health good because we're not having to go through that whole depressive state of losing a lot of weight, going to starvation mode, then getting food again, then losing food again. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep our physical self and our mental health healthy to be able to perform our best on those competition days, but also be able to push ourselves hard and stay positive during our training. All right, if you guys have any more weight cutting questions for me, feel free to comment down below, shoot me a message, let me know how I can help.